Hello and welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast with me, Nicky Raby. I'm an actor, coach, writer, speaker, podcaster and a mum. And in my coaching work, I work with creatives, personal brands, freelancers and small businesses. In my podcast, I talk about success, but not in a traditional sense. I have conversations with those who have built a business from something they love or who have made a pivot in their career. Also those who have built a brand or a job that maybe didn't exist when they were at school and they found a way to monetize their skills, talents and expertise. I've spoken to loads of incredible people, coaches, designers, journalists, app creators, magazine editors, bloggers, content creators, authors, and all-round movers and shakers. I ask the questions that you want to know the answer to. So, how they started, about money, saying no, saying yes, pitching, presenting, putting yourself out there even though it terrifies you, standing out in a busy online world, growing, scaling and making your work for you and your circumstances. The show notes are always at nickyraby.com/podcast and the conversation continues across social media, often on Instagram, my favourite platform, at Nicky Raby. Thanks so much for listening. It's great to have you with us. In today's episode, I'm talking to Jen Fuller, who is the founder of sensory baby brand Etta Loves. I have kindly been gifted some beautiful products from Jen's shop, and you can find out more about what she does and see them in action over on my Instagram highlights. I really wanted to talk to Jen because when I first met her, she just had Etta and she was still in a corporate position, and now she's made this shift into really growing this business, which is a baby product business, but it's based on science and the development of eyes. And really go and have a look on the story ettaloves.com. It's really fascinating, and I love the fact that the product is so multifaceted and it does lots of different things. It's a really interesting one, and hopefully if you're thinking about launching your own product, there'll be lots of behind the scenes knowledge as well. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, share, check the description box, all that good stuff. Here's the episode. Enjoy. Hi Jen, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So tell me, well, I know about your business, but tell everybody listening on the school run, cooking spag bowl, whatever you may be doing, all about your business and what you do.
So my name's Jen, and I run the founder of a business called Etta Loves, which is basically a very unique sensory baby textile business, I guess. And the thing that we do that's unique is we take the science, the very precise science of what babies at various ages of their first year can and can't see, and we use that knowledge to develop patterns with various scales and colours that sort of supports their development. And the really lovely outcome of that is that the babies are generally very calm when they look at these products.
Happy
so
days.
all these lovely new parents who are a little bit kind of shell-shocked and going, oh my gosh, get a very valuable moment to kind of regroup or do whatever it is that they haven't been able to do. So yes, that's it in a nutshell.
And how did it begin? Had you always thought that you might become an entrepreneur, or because it was quite different to what you were doing before? You had you had a sensible job before, as it were.
A paid job, I like to call it. Yes.
Oh yes, got it.
Yeah, so I'd spent the best part of 20 years working for a media agency, so effectively in advertising, spending people's very big budgets on campaigns to make people buy stuff. So I guess there are some parallels, but I mean we're talking millions that people had, unlike me. So I mean I wasn't looking for an idea, to be honest, and I do get quite a few messages from people saying, oh, I really want an idea, I want to start a business, and that wasn't kind of the path that I ended up going down. I was more than happy, really enjoyed the job that I was in, and I just happened to be on maternity leave with my first, who funnily enough is called Etta, and just had a bit of a spark during a moment. I was feeding her. She's a January baby, so it's very cold, and I had on I guess you'd call it kind of a zebra print sort of striped jumper as I was feeding her, and all of a sudden she locked eyes on this jumper like I'd never seen her do. She went cross-eyed, came back again, went cross-eyed again, and she was absolutely mesmerised by the scale and the colours on this jumper. And obviously, like most parents, I was aware that babies were attracted to high contrast in those first few weeks and months, but I didn't understand why, and I didn't know why this jumper in particular had really sort of stood out to her. And I had a muslin on the shoulder, as you do during a feed.
Yeah.
And that was plain and
then
perfect,
sometimes in the supermarket where you're like, oh, still got it there, brilliant.
Oh, yeah, always. It's always in my pocket at the minute, or sort of tied to my nice handbag, you know. But, you know, it was doing the function that it was designed to do. It was there for a feed and for snotty noses, etc. But I looked at it and just thought, oh, I wonder, whatever is going on here with this jumper, I wonder whether you could put it on things that are omnipresent in baby's first year and actually sort of reproduce whatever this wonder is. So that was the spark, and I sort of set off to kind of understand more about why she'd locked on this jumper and what I could do with that as an idea. So yeah, that was, again, like I said, I wasn't looking for it. I had a 6-week-old baby. I certainly wasn't firing on all cylinders mentally.
Really?
However,
you're joking.
No, I know, funny that, eh? But it just came to me, and it felt like an idea that I wanted to explore. You know, I'd had sort of bits and bobs pop into my head in previous years. Again, not looking for them, but they always felt a bit too difficult and a bit less exciting. Yes. So I never really pursued them because, like I said, I was really enjoying the career path I was on. But this just felt like, and because I guess I was living the world of babies and had lots of babies around for research and lots of mums to talk to about the idea, it felt like something I had to explore.
And how quickly did it become something where you just had a curiosity and an interest to actually, like, I'm going to put some money into this, or a lot more time, or what sort of was the green light moment for you where you were like, okay, I'm going all in, I'm doing it, I'm taking my shoes off?
Exactly, I'm wading in.
Yeah.
I think this is where my character really comes to the fore, because I'm one of these people, when I have an idea, it annoys my husband no end, when I have an idea that I want to do something or explore something, I do it. I don't just wait and see whether it happens. So despite being fairly sleep deprived, and I must say Etta was a fairly good baby in the skin, not good baby, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She gave me some moments to think and relax, more than I know some of my NCT friends had. So I was able to sort of use enough brain cells to start to piece it together. And I was also incredibly fortunate that we were living in Walthamstow at the time, which, for anyone that doesn't know, is an area in East London that is a very sort of it's a real melting pot of people, but it's a very creative sort of hub for people. So within our NCT group, we had a textile designer, we had a graphic designer who was also a branding expert, we had an actress, we had a screenwriter, we had the most phenomenally creative people that I really trusted their opinion on these things. So that helped, because it meant that quite quickly I could sort of litmus test the idea or the concept with them, and also they could help. So actually Shruti, who was one of my NCT team, is still the designer on Etta Loves, despite the fact she now lives in Sydney. She is our core designer. So she was there at my fingertips. But I guess the moment where I knew it was going to happen was probably just registering the company. Yeah. That felt, even though actually it's not particularly hard thing to do, or even a big thing, you just get an email saying you've now registered with Companies House. Yes. I felt that was a commitment. You know, up till then I've just been talking it through, drawing some things, trying to find someone that knew the science of the development of baby's vision, which is our orthoptist Laura turned out to be. But I was trying to just piece things together. But at that point I'd got the name, I got the concept, and I felt like I was going to give it a go. So it happened quite quickly, really.
And I love that you were surrounded by people who were probably sort of yes people, as in not just saying yes to any old idea, but would have that vision and that openness to new ideas, rather than being like, oh, come on now, like, you've just had a baby, what are you thinking? Because I think sometimes as well it can be quite a vulnerable state to open yourself up to saying, I'm going to do this, or I'm trying this, because suddenly the opinions flow in of what other people's feedback is, and sometimes it can really shut down an idea when actually it's cracking and it just needs tweaking slightly.
Exactly, and they really did help me shape from the original idea to sort of how, I mean, the original idea still stands, but actually how the range developed and how that stacked up. But they, you know, I think they're just a very positive bunch of women. And they were just so supportive. And how much of it was the fact that, we not barely knew each other, we'd known each other for a few intense months, and maybe they were always going to nod and say, yeah, great.
Yeah.
But I genuinely, looking back, I really think they believed in it. And to this day, they're all still part of this journey to some extent. So I feel very, very thankful for that, because without them, I absolutely know this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's lovely. And how did you then sort of know, I guess, how to start making products? I think it's like one of those things, sometimes everybody feels like they can open up a cafe and actually you don't know the first steps to take. What would you recommend to people? Say, for example, if people have an idea for a product-based business, what does that process look like?
I mean, it's going to vary dramatically from product to product, because ours is, or certainly started off as being, a single piece of textile, which was great for me because we started with muslins, and we're only now really starting to expand quite dramatically outside of that. But obviously a muslin square, it's fairly low risk in terms of the cost per item. Even when you are doing small quantities, like obviously I was and still am to a certain degree. And, I was able to sort of test. And the first thing I guess I did was I understood the process. So I enrolled in a screen printing course, so I could go and just understand how things were printed onto fabrics. Because, I see a lot of people with very successful businesses who have started up coming from a different career. But quite often that career has been in retail. Yeah. They've been fashion buyers. They know the market. Therefore, they've had that benefit of the contacts and the knowledge of how it works. And I really have had zero experience of either the baby market, apart from having a baby, or textiles. It's just never been something that's crossed my path. So I think, what I actually did, which is possibly a bit ballsy, was I reached out to other companies who were also producing muslins and who were also sort of fledgling businesses. So, and I sort of said to them, this is totally different. I appreciate you might view me as competition, and that's fine. However, we could probably get more out of this if we support each other. How are you getting on with your factory? How did you find them? And some people obviously shut it right down and said, look, I'm sorry, I feel a bit uncomfortable with this. And I was like, not a problem. And actually most of those people I'm now have remained in contact with, but obviously not about the details of things. Although some it comes full circle, and I have actually had one of the first companies I approached saying, actually, who are you using now? Because we're a bit fed up with our manufacturer. Yours are this, that, and the other. So I think a lot of it was just being really just kind of open and saying to people, I don't know what I'm doing. Would you mind sharing your details? Because otherwise it's an absolute minefield knowing how to get something produced if you genuinely know no one that produces things.
Yeah, well, sometimes people might just go, somewhere in Asia. Well, Asia's a fairly big place.
Very big, yeah, and there are a lot of bad alongside a lot of good in Asia. So I mean, that was the challenge. I mean, I started out looking for a UK manufacturer, and very quickly, unfortunately, realised that the production of muslin doesn't happen here apart from like cooking grade muslin, so that sort of gauze that you strain jams through and use for fancy things. So I knew I was going to have to import the muslin, but then I was really struggling to find printing presses of the right size for screen printing to get it produced in the UK. So very quickly I realised that wasn't going to be an option, and that would have been a really not only a nice brand story and nice for me to feel like I was able to support UK industries, but also would have been a damn sight easier to quality control, to go there to see things coming off and actually help control the process a bit more. But that quickly sort of flew out the window, unfortunately.
Absolutely. What does that process look like from, I mean, I guess on a time scale from coming up with the idea to designing something to actually getting something made? Because sometimes maybe it's the Amazon Prime of the world. Like, I just clicked it and it's here within the hour. Like, I'm sure it isn't that straightforward, but what should people know about it?
Well, I guess, I mean, the manufacturing process we go through now, again, it's still fairly simple products. We're not really using more than one material at any one point, as in, there's no metal, there's no plastic and something else. So it's still a very straightforward process. But I mean, I leave at least 5 months between, let's even say, a new print design, so not even a new product.
Wow.
Between that, because obviously by the time I get the design files over and I discuss the requirements of what this needs to be, you then get strike-offs to check all the colour, you then get pre-production samples, then, you've obviously, well, not always, but we're now looking a lot more closely at our packaging. So that has to almost be designed as intricately as the actual muslins and playmats, etc. Itself, and swing tickets, and what are we attaching things to, and how are we packing them, and how's the warehouse going to take delivery of these. So it becomes far more complicated quite quickly as you scale as well. So, which is wonderful, but again, every day I feel like I'm totally out of my depth going, I don't know the answer, let me call you back in 5 minutes.
I know, I think that we all feel like there's going to be this like holy grail day where everything just aligns perfectly and you know exactly what we're doing. And I think this not only as a business owner, but when I'm with my child, like sometimes we'll have those great days where you're almost a bit smug at the end of it, like I've got this, I'm a really good parent, and then they'll just lose their mind over something in kind of some shape or form. How have you managed to communicate your idea and your eye for detail and attention to detail to make sure that you work with people who really champion the product, who believe in the story and really want to do the best job for you?
I think a lot of it is just talking them through it, because it's one of those ideas, and this is where I've really struggled with since launching. It does need a little bit of explanation, and even when I tell people, it takes sometimes a couple of times for me to explain why the patterns are so clever and why it's really important that along the manufacturing process, no one changes the scale. They stick to my Panto references and just, please don't mess with it. So I think thankfully I've been really fortunate to, certainly now, the people that I'm working with to produce the products and to design the products and all of those stages, they really get it and they really buy into it. And also, they're fortunate enough to be able to, or I'm fortunate enough to be able to show them growth from the business. So I think they take you a bit more seriously when you can start to up your quantities that you're ordering. You can start to forecast and say, come with me on this journey. And I've been really lucky in the UK from a fulfillment and warehousing point of view to find the most incredible company who are a family-run business who want, they want me to outgrow their warehouse so they can buy more space. They want me to do well. And actually, that's just wonderful, because that's what I want. I want everyone, if I manage to make this a success, I want people to sort of come up with me and sort of, at the same time, see their businesses grow as mine does. And I think that's just that's just my ambition, really. So that's important. It is just communicating, because I think, once they send me a muslin, which might have all the high contrast it needs, but be really rough, they soon understand when I'm like, no, this is going on a baby's skin. Yes. Or it'll be lovely and soft, but it'll be grey instead of black.
We don't need it exfoliating, we just need it looking nice.
It's infused, and I am asking a lot, actually, and because I've made sure I do understand the actual production and the printing process, I am asking for quite a lot of them, because it's really hard to get a very sort of a strong colour on a bit of fabric without just feeling the ink. Yes. So, I think it's a lot of toing and froing. It's a lot of just sort of, sometimes breaking down language barriers, but a lot of time just sort of showing them the journey we're going on and just taking that time to explain a little bit more why the quality is, of the paramount importance. And I think as soon as they've got it and you found those partners, just cultivate that relationship.
Never let them go.
Yeah, don't let them go.
Yeah, for sure. And how has social media changed or enhanced your business? What's worked really well for you in terms of growing your presence? And I presume lots of people find your business through social media.
They do, yeah. And I think, it's something I'm very aware that I'm very much an Instagram-led business, and I feel a bit nervous about that, to be honest. So much as I love Instagram as a platform, as a business, because it enables, people to tag me, to share, to comment, and it enables me to get really close to my customers and sort of see what they're saying. That feedback's almost instant, and I absolutely love that feeling. However, I do feel a little bit too sort of reliant on it. So I mean, certainly at the moment, we've been driving our Pinterest strategy forward because I love Pinterest as a platform. I think, possibly from a conversion point of view, it's not going to be anything like Instagram for now. But when I've looked up all the Pinterest for business plans, I really think that as a team at Pinterest, they know what they're doing. So that's an interesting avenue. And then things like sort of paid search, so PPC, making sure our SEO strategy is right. We're about to update our website. So I think it should never really be just one thing, because I've felt a bit nervous this year because I felt like I haven't had the contacts with some key influencers, much as I hate that word, who are pregnant.
Yeah.
So last year there was a real raft of people that I'd met along my way and was able to, gift them, and they very kindly, they loved the products and they talked about it. And that's when you see quite, monumental jumps up in followers and sales. And that's amazing. But that's quite a risky strategy, because I think as a business you do need that sort of slow and steady. Peaks are great, but you need your base to continue to build.
I agree.
I just feel a bit nervous at the moment because I'm looking going, who's pregnant that can help me spread the word? Because like I said earlier, it's a product that needs, there's two levels of explanation. Yes, they're beautiful. Yes, they're functional. But wow, did you know about the science? And that's the bit that is more of a kind of coffee table conversation. And that's actually what influencers and people and just other mums that love it can sort of do for me, really.
And you want people to be really articulate in the way they're describing, your other baby, because you don't just want people, because sometimes I see that kind of content on something like Instagram and there's just a bit of a kind of slow walk to the mirror in a dress, a slight pout, a shoulder forward, and it's like, and then people going, yeah, it's like really nice, and I'm and you're like, you have to be able to say why. And I think that's when you notice the influencers that really make those jumps, who can articulate exactly, like, it's great if you've got a big pear shape and you've got a small waist, but also you're breastfeeding or whatever it might be, but really sort of helping the potential customer out in that way. How has it been reaching out and not only selling from your own platforms, but collaborating with other businesses and selling through their stores?
I really enjoy the collaboration part of things. So whether that's actually just, sort of trying to grow our wholesale, so our retail presence, or whether it's things like the collab we did with Cowshed earlier in the year, which is just,
that looked amazing.
Oh, it was just fabulous. I'm still slightly pinching myself that there was an Etta Loves Times Cowshed collaboration. It was phenomenal, and that it's just really exciting because, for starters, you get to see someone else's view on your business in those first few meetings when they approach you. They're like, "Oh, we want to work with you because," and you go, "Oh wow, people do understand it." So it's it's a little bit of an affirmation that you're kind of on the right track. And then there's loads of other small businesses, well, not loads, there's a handful of other small businesses that I'm in sort of constant talks with, because we feel like there's a really wonderful synergy between what they do and what I do. And we obviously share an audience as well, but it's trying to do it in the right way. And I think it's really important that with collabs, it's got to be mutually beneficial, and the end product has to just be wonderful and has to make people kind of gasp. That's always really the aim for me. So it's definitely a big part of my strategy for the next kind of year or two. But like I say, it's got to be the right ones and not too many. And they've got to, I want to feel really passionate about what we can co-produce with someone else.
And what kind of topics or conversation starters do you bring up in those kind of meetings to make sure that it is going to be mutually beneficial? Because I guess sometimes, say somebody might have a meeting with Cowshed, I guess what you don't want to do in that moment is be so overwhelmed with, oh my goodness, I've had that with some castings sometimes, like, oh my goodness, this is it, guys, I'm going to Hollywood, see you later. And you almost get caught in the excitement and the frenzy of it. But also now, because I'm a grown-up, that you do have to have that sense of, okay, I've got to have a bit of a game face here and show that I mean business without being cold and sort of stubborn in that way. What helped you sort of land that collaboration and get to a point where you came away going, ooh, this feels really good?
I think from the off, because their development team contacted me, that was the moment where sort of I received that email and this follow-up call, and whilst I was sounding all calm and collected on the phone and on my email, I was sort of punching the air and doing the running man, screaming. Yeah, and you put the phone down, you call everyone but you say, I can't tell you what it is, but this would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I think actually, and there's a big conversation we're having at the moment for something next year, which I've just signed the contract on. It's annoying, I can't tell you about it, but that I've actually been really, really open about how excited I am. And I think they really like that, because a lot of companies, particularly if they are bigger and more established, they kind of feel wonderful making another company sort of just dance around.
Yes.
So I think as long as you show them you're not daft, and as long as you do listen, really actively listen to what they're saying, because obviously a lot of collabs just won't be commercially viable, particularly for small businesses where, our margins, unfortunately, are not always the largest, and certainly nowhere near big companies or the high street. So we have to be careful. And a lot of the time, I'm certainly looking at the moment that collabs are not necessarily going to make me money. They're about exposure.
Yes.
But also they can't lose me money, and they have to be right, because if they are going to lose me money, that's a really bad idea. So
I love that you having a criteria and a framework to always come back to, rather than people just go, oh my God, that sounds amazing, let's do it. And actually you have to be strategic behind it and know why you're doing what you're doing.
You do, and a lot of the times it's things that I think, oh, I'd love to make that, but I don't want to. I don't want to branch into certain areas away from what we're doing at the moment and our core range. So, but if there's a company that does it, for example, and does it really well, I've reached out to them and gone, well, hang on, you do this brilliantly, I do this. This is where they collide. So this is where, the babies are looking at the thing that you do. Why don't we collaborate, and I can put some magic into your products? And people tend to, with that approach, they go, oh yeah, as long as you have thought it through and you found the insight and you found that really nice sweet spot between what they're doing and what they're trying to do and their audience and yours, in theory, you'll kind of get that gut feel. And I think if you both get that, then they're the ones that take off. There's a few bits and bobs that I've been approached about, and I may well have loved the product, but I've gone, oh, I can't, particularly people who deal in the area of like nighttime. So I've got to be really careful, because ours are sensory patterns.
Yes.
And much as people go, oh, please make cot sheets, please make a mobile, I don't really want to, because actually I've always said from the beginning, this is to stimulate. And yes, a lot of babies get so stimulated they fall asleep. That's lovely. But what I don't want to do is get them excited when they're meant to be sleeping.
No. Exactly.
So
We've all had that moment where, a relative comes over at bath and bedtime, and suddenly you're like, oh, game over. This child is not going to bed till at least 9 o'clock
silly
tonight.
Faces being pulled. You're like, put the silly faces away, auntie. Yes, exactly that. So I think it's just, I always have to come back to what kind of the values are that I believe we have for this business. And just so much of what I do is based on an instinct. It's just feels right in my gut, and I've just got to hope that most of the time that's correct.
And how do you recognise that, of knowing whether you're on or you're off with something?
What, in the sense of how my gut feels?
Yeah, I think, like we were talking a little bit earlier, is that sometimes when people just go, just think positive, like what does that really look like for you? Because I don't know if it's a female thing, but I think sometimes we're a bit afraid to trust our gut, or we're waiting for permission. Or I have it a lot with my coaching clients. People say, oh, I'm not ready for that yet, or I'm not there yet, and we're sort of waiting for this magical day where everything falls into place. And actually you are ready and you are good to go, and you just have to wing it a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, and I think because I live and breathe this, and have done since, that first seed of an idea, I just think I know. I can't even tell you how it feels. It is something kind of guttural. It's something that I feel excited. I often have to sort of physically move and sort of shake myself to go, oh, okay, that feels exciting. It's almost like electricity, and I can feel that at really random times when I'm thinking about something happening, or when it's actually about to happen, or it's just happened. So it's incredibly quite a physical feeling for me, because this business is ingrained in my head. So I think as long as I keep centering myself, if I do get a bit carried away, I do have to obviously look at the bits that make a business stay afloat. So the financial potential, and a lot of it, you just go, oh, I'm not ready for that because I haven't got the money. Because so often, so many of these things, particularly when you're a product, not a service, we hold stock, and making the wrong decision means we hold a load of stock, and that's not liquidizing. There's no cash in the bank, which is not fun for anyone. So I think that instantly gives a little bit more, a layer of caution. But so much of it is just instinctive. Honestly, I don't think I could say any more than that.
Well, I love the fact that you are looking for that, you're allowing yourself to go for that excitement factor, because I think sometimes people go, oh, I'll just do the sensible option or the run of the mill, or I'll do what everybody else is doing. But I think you're right. Like, I know I have those moments in me where I'm like, I cannot stop thinking about this idea. I can't wait to get started. This is the thing. And, you know, rolling with that, because when you're in that place of excitement, it's really attractive to your customers, and people want to be part of the story and part of the brand and all that good stuff. How have you found that brand voice for you and for the brand, and how sort of intrinsically linked is it to you?
It's a really good question, and it's something that as we're growing, I sort of I struggle to sort of contain my personality within and I think that's where social's great, because I can be, you know, fairly professional's the wrong word, but, you know, a little bit more, I guess a bit more business-like on something like my Instagram feed. But whereas stories tend to be a lot more of me and my personality, and me just chatting about stuff and things that I've seen, and it's not necessarily linked to my business. It's just potentially a bit of my life as well.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I learned really early on that people do buy the people behind the brands, particularly when we're asking people to probably pay a bit more for something they could get on the high street. We're saying, trust us, trust that we're doing something really, really special. And just, you know, we're asking them for probably a bit more cash than they could pay. Therefore, you need people to want you to do well.
Yes.
So I think it's very important for people to know who's running this, and my journey through the business and my mistakes. I'll often say, oh my gosh, I've done this and this was awful, or I'm not motivated today, and all these things. So I think people feel that, and I've always been very honest. And it's interesting that when I look through sort of the analytics, which sounds boring, but bear with me, on something like my Instagram posts, the ones where I'm really talking in quite a raw way about motherhood, so not necessarily anything to do with my products, just about my children, my babies. Yes. That's when it goes crazy in terms of interactions and comments, and that's when people really seem to connect to the business through me as a mouthpiece, I guess. So from a social point of view, I think it's fairly easy to tangle the two up a little bit. But where it's difficult is at the moment, for example, we're writing sort of our line sheet and lookbook for autumn winter this year. And that's going to people who knows where in the world, people who don't know me, who possibly don't know the brand, probably don't know the brand yet. And that's quite hard, because I don't want it to sound dry and professional. I want it to sound like the business it is, which is, you know, very supportive, nurturing, there for parents, there for babies, not this kind of, and I guess also where I have that challenge is because we are a science-led idea.
Yes.
Science is, people switch off a little bit when you mention the science. But that's why we're different. That's what makes us, you know, an innovative brand. So science and then me and then products is always this sort of a slight battle, but I don't feel like I've totally missed the mark yet, but I think it is a bit of trial and error and just seeing what people respond to, really.
Absolutely. And I think that sense of just keep saying stuff out loud, and I think start before you're ready, and all of those things, that you have to start airing the idea out before you're ready to fully, I guess, embody it, because people will tell you what they think, or you'll hear the nuances where people go, oh, okay, tell me, so what happens at 5 months? And they sort of, they tell you a bit more information, even without you sort of asking for it. And that's a really, you go, thank you for that really great free feedback. That's brilliant.
Exactly.
What helps you on a day-to-day basis, and what sort of does your ideal working day or mum mixed with working day look like? What sort of helped you to stay, because, you know, you've now had a second child and things like that. What helps you sort of stay in the game? Because, you know, you are working your business around your children, as I am. And sometimes it can be a lot.
Yeah, it is quite full on. I think what I try and do, so there's a few bits that like housekeeping bits that I try and do. So every morning I try and do any of the social posts, because just knowing that, you know, they're done, and often they're done while sort of, you know, throwing a bowl of cornflakes at one of the children and spoon feeding porridge into the other one.
And then picking the other brown flakes off the floor.
Exactly. I mean, that tends to not happen. I tend to find the brown flakes later, but So I think, that's a challenge, but that's something I go, right, if I get that done, otherwise it's silly, but I feel a slight weight on my shoulders if I haven't said anything to anyone
Yes.
publicly, as in to my social feeds. I feel like I've not done something.
Yeah.
Actually, about that, I don't think I posted today. That's why I've been feeling anxious all day. Anyway, I do that. And then the other thing that's an absolute lifesaver for me is WhatsApp. So I've got WhatsApp groups with my fulfillment company, with my PR lady, with the designer, with the factory. So literally, I'm permanently connected to these guys, so I can really just be quite stream of consciousness with them, which I'm sure they love.
Nice.
But it's great because I could just, at 2 a.m, if I want to, assuming they mute their notifications,
Yeah.
I can just go, guys,
Ping, 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 ping.
I can go, guys, I've been thinking this product, actually, can we do this? Or can we change the thread colour to this? Or I don't like the swing ticket, I forgot to tell you. How long have we got to the chips? And all these things mean that actually, rather than having to do lots of to-do lists, I can do them instantly. Does that make sense?
That's so good. And it also, you get the sense of you as well. Like quite often when I work with clients over a long period of time, we do voice notes, and it's like, sometimes it will be like, Nikki, I've put together my about page, don't know if it feels like me, is that second paragraph a bit shit, would you have a look, not sure if the tone's right, rather than trying to put together this email that was going to take them half an hour to draft and then me do that. We can just do it so quickly and easily.
And I love that you can connect people together. So we're just redesigning the website because we've got a load of new products and product categories launching. So I've created a WhatsApp, I'm sure they hate me for it, with our photographer and our web designer, because the web designer keeps asking when the photos are going to be ready. The photographer keeps asking what size the photos need to be and what colour.
Amazing.
Guys, let's all chat. So I just think that's it breaks down some of those barriers. And for me, like I sort of said earlier, I'm quite an instant person, but it's very difficult when you've got 2 children to get the laptop out, load it up, in that point there's by then there's utter destruction happening somewhere. Someone's eating a pebble, someone's painted the walls. So being able to do something really instantly is good. And also just things like the hygiene around accounting. So I always make sure there's one night in the week where I will go on and just reconcile all my business accounts and PayPal accounts, and the things that are kind of boring and mind-numbing but really important to do to know where I am as a business. And I guess the other thing, I've only recently, it's kind of weird really, but I've never until a month ago had even one full day on the business, just me, which sounds crazy, I know, but I started the business on maternity leave, so Etta was there. Then I went back to work full time, so the business became evenings, weekends, bits. It was in the cracks of life, basically.
Yeah.
Then I got pregnant, but was still working and trying to sort of keep Etta Loves going. Then I had the baby, and day 2 I was probably posting again, but was able to take it, at the pace that was right for me. And now Uma has started nursery, started about 6 weeks ago. And it's the first time ever that I now have 2 days a week between, let's say, 9 and 4, where it's just me. And I'm kind of going, well, this is phenomenal. I can actually do work. So
I am so productive. It's amazing what you could do, isn't it?
Honestly, so tomorrow, as an example, I've booked a shared workspace just locally, wonderful little shared hot desk office. And I'm going to go there and I'm just going to absolutely bash out the things that have been weighing me down a little bit, the mental load of things I should be doing but haven't because they've not been urgent enough, but they're going to be urgent soon. And I'm going to do it. And then Thursday, I then end up with the children again, and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So it's really working well, although I just think the only thing is, as soon as you create some space, it just expands to fill it. So I now feel like I probably need a 3rd day and will very soon need a 4th, which, I've got to be careful of that balance, because I don't want to not see my children, obviously.
Totally. And it's always that reassessment of you start to fill the days, and then suddenly you can then realise where you're not an expert and actually you could delegate something, and then you have all of that moment of like, but is this worth my time? Should I pay somebody? And you just kind of, I think this is really important to know as well, that sometimes people feel like there's going to be this moment where everything makes sense and all the answers are suddenly revealed, like ching, and it's just not the case. There's always sort of, it's like Candy Crush. You feel like you've done it all. It's a very weird analogy. And then suddenly they open up new levels and you're like, I wasn't even ready for that. How cool.
And now I've got to complete them.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Maternity leave well spent.
Exactly. My gosh. And it's funny actually, because I learned or taught myself or just went to that place of delegation quite early on in the business, given that I guess because I had a salary coming in that could, look after us, and my husband did too. I had that financial freedom to actually start outsourcing things quite early on in the life stage of the business.
Yes.
So when it got to the point when I had Etta, I had a full-time job, and obviously the usual life admin, house to run, people to see, friends to try and kind of keep cultivating. I realised that I didn't want to be packing all the orders every night in my spare room till midnight, and then lugging them to the post office in my lunch break the next day. So quite early on, for a lot of sort of new startups, I got a warehouse and I got a fulfillment company. And even though some days they might have only had 1 or 2 orders to fulfill, it still meant that I wasn't going, oh gosh, I've got to do that thing tonight. And it took such a weight off my shoulders, because I realised that actually my time and my energy and my worry was far better placed actually doing the strategy for the business and moving it forward and having thinking time, rather than just packing and trying to perfectly position a sticker. So
totally. And actually, you can get in those windows of half an hour, you can get loads done. But if you know you've got to go to the post office that day, that's the day where your child doesn't nap or someone throws up, or you just,
exactly.
And that's when you feel like, oh my goodness, I'm behind. Am I on top of it?
Exactly. And particularly because the juggle between the job and my career and this business as it started to grow was a really tough one, emotionally and physically as well, because I on the one hand wanted to do the best I could for my my employer, but at the same time I was so excited about what I was building on my own.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Again, having that pressure to go to the post office every lunchtime when probably there might have been a client meeting pop up or something I should have been doing, that became really difficult. So I certainly have delegated and got people just to do things that either I don't need to do, or things that are, people are a lot better at than me. So things like PR.
Yes. So what are the plans for the next sort of 5 years, like in business or in life? What's on your to-do list? What's the stuff you would the exciting list, shall we call it?
Exciting list. Well, I mean, I'm really excited actually about probably the next year. I feel will be make or break, and hopefully there's no break about it. But I feel like when I look ahead to what we have planned, so even in the next 6 weeks, we're launching 7 new products in 3 new categories.
Wow.
And I feel really confident that they're great, and they don't exist in the market because obviously the uniqueness in the science in our patterns, but the way they're coming to market, I think people are going to love. So I'm really excited, but also very, very scared that no one's going to like them or buy them. But
yeah,
time will tell. So we've got that, and we're going to have a big press day to launch those and kind of launch the brand, really, because like I said, it's been a bit of a hobby, which doesn't really do it justice, but it has just had to fit in with life and jobs. It hasn't had the spotlight on it in the way that I'd have liked it to, and I really do believe that people need to and want to hear about this. So we're going to have a big press day, and then, like I mentioned, we've got a really lovely collaboration for next summer and all of next year, in fact. So I think it's really just the right pace for growing the business. We are starting to look at other territories outside of the UK, but we've still got a huge amount of ground to go over in the UK, to be honest, because there's still loads of people who don't know what we're doing and who we are. So it's about that education and introducing people to what we do. And there's limitless categories that we could expand into, limitless kind of moments in the day that could be made better by sort of some sensory stimulation. So I've got a really big notebook full of products I'd like to produce, but obviously a lot of them become a bit more complicated.
Yes. I'm suddenly having all these ideas as well. Like I've suddenly seen
over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can send me your baby names and I'll be like, oh, you should make a lampshade.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, right, tick.
Like one of those 60s mini dresses with the black and white pattern. Not that I will be wearing a mini dress anytime soon.
Absolutely, yes.
And if people want to come and find out more, or perhaps talk to you about becoming a stockist, or or come and buy a product, where should they go?
So the best place is probably our website. You've got all the science, all of the about the journey, and you can obviously see all the range, which is just ettaloves.com. So nice and simple. And there's also a contact form and my email. So I love it when people get in touch just to say what they think, really, preferably nice things.
Yes.
So yeah, and then where I'm most active, I guess, is on Instagram, which is quite simply just, the handle is just Etta Loves. So that's where you can get a bit more of a flavour as well of kind of who I am, and the brand as well. So yeah, they're probably the best places to find out more.
Fantastic. Well, I feel like I've learned so. I know what my crazy hormonal pregnancy brain is going to be doing. Like, what shall I make? I should do a product. I'm going to phone China. Whatever. And it's like, no, just have a baby. Stop doing all the
Join
things.
the baby, exactly. And send me the ideas. I'll make them.
Yeah. Isn't it weird though? You do go through those stages of life where you're just like, come on, let's do this, and often they're in the most least practical times when you're like, actually, I've got loads of stuff going on. So
No.
yes, but thank you so much, Jen. I've loved chatting, and if anybody's listening and wants to tag us and let us know where they're listening, if you've got any questions, check the show notes description. All the links will be down below there as well. But thank you. You've been amazing.
Thanks for having me, Nikki.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear what you thought of the episode and share any takeaways with me. Come and find me across social media at Nicky Raby, or you can visit the podcast page, nickyraby.com/podcast.